Let's go back 400 million years, Sarah, the Ordovician period. This is long before the dinosaurs, long before the first tree even grew on Earth. The land is barren rock and moss. The oceans are filled with armored fish and trilobites. It is the age of fishes. There are no mammals, there are no monkeys, and there are certainly no blacksmiths.
I know the era. It's ancient history, deep time. If you were walking around back then, you'd suffocate because the oxygen levels were different, and you'd have nothing to eat but slime.
Correct. So if the world was empty of intelligent life, explain to me why a couple walking along a creek in Texas found a manufactured iron hammer embedded in a rock from that exact time period.
Ah, the London hammer. I was wondering when we'd get to this one. It's the holy grail of creationists and ancient alien theorists. A hammer found in stone that is supposed to be 400 million years old.
It's not supposed to be. The rock is Ordovician limestone. That is a geological fact. Welcome to Cryptic Vector. I am Vector.
And I'm Sarah, and I'm here to tell you that just because a rock is old doesn't mean the thing stuck inside it is also old. That's called the concretion fallacy, and we are going to talk about it.
We are. But first, let's look at the discovery. It's June 1936. Max and Emma Hahn are hiking along Red Creek near London, Texas. Not England, Texas. It's a hot day. They are looking for arrowheads or interesting fossils. They spot a loose rock sitting on a ledge of the creek bed. It looks odd. It has a piece of wood protruding from it.
A piece of wood sticking out of rock. That's unusual but not impossible. Tree roots grow into cracks.
This wasn't a root. It was smooth. It looked like a handle. Max Hahn found it curious enough to pick it up. It was heavy. He took it home. And like so many of these stories, he put it on a shelf. It sat there for 10 years. A curiosity. A paperweight.
Which is always a red flag for me. If I found an impossible artifact, I'd break it open immediately. I wouldn't let it gather dust for a decade.
Maybe he was afraid of ruining it. Or maybe he just forgot. But in 1947, his son decided to crack it open. He took a chisel and a hammer, a modern hammer, and smashed the rock. The limestone split away and revealed the object inside. It was a hammerhead, about 6 inches long, made of iron, with a wooden handle that was broken off.
Okay, let's pause. They found a hammer. In Texas. Texas has a long history of mining, ranching, and railroads. Is it not possible, highly possible, that a miner in, say, 1850 dropped his hammer in the mud? The mud dried, hardened around the hammer, and formed a hard concretion that looked like rock?
That is the standard debunk. It's a concretion. But there are 3 problems with that theory. First, the rock wasn't dried mud. It was limestone, part of the surrounding geological formation. Second, the hammerhead itself. It doesn't look like an 1850s miner's hammer. It has a very specific, unusual shape. But the third problem is the handle.
What about the handle?
If you drop a wooden handle in the mud in 1850 and you find it in 1936, what condition is the wood in?
It would be rotten or decayed. Wood doesn't last 80 years exposed to the elements in a creek bed.
Exactly. But the handle of the London hammer wasn't rotten. It was petrified.
Petrified?
Parts of the handle had begun the process of coalification. The wood was turning into coal.
Okay, that is a significant claim. Coalification takes millions of years. It requires immense pressure and heat. You can't get petrified wood in 100 years. Are you sure about this? Did a lab confirm it was coal?
We'll get to the lab results in a minute. But visually, the wood near the head had crystallized. The inner part of the handle was porous, carbonized wood. This implies that the hammer was buried not just in mud, but in a geological event that compressed it under massive weight.
Or it implies that the chemical conditions in that specific creek were just right to mineralize the wood quickly. There are rare cases where wood can petrify rapidly in silica-rich water. It doesn't always take millions of years.
Rapid petrification is a theoretical possibility, but it's extremely rare, and it doesn't explain the rock. The rock encasing the hammer contained lower Ordovician fossils, shells, ancient marine life. The hammer was welded into the timeline of the 400-million-year-old ocean.
But Vector, think about the logistics. If the hammer is 400 million years old, who was holding it? You said yourself, no monkeys, no humans. Are you suggesting a human time traveler went back to the Ordovician period to, what? Build a deck?
I'm suggesting that the timeline of human history is wrong. We assume we are the pinnacle. We assume we started in caves 50,000 years ago and worked our way up to iPhones. But artifacts like the London hammer suggest that we have been here before. Or someone has.
Someone.
Someone who needed a hammer made of high-purity iron. Because that's the other thing, Sarah. The metal isn't normal.
I've heard rumors about the metal. People say it doesn't rust.
It doesn't. Max Hahn scratched the metal in 1947 to see if it was real. That scratch is still shiny today, 70 years later. No oxidation, no rust. If you scratch a modern iron hammer and leave it in a humid garage in Texas, it rusts in a week. This metal is immune to corrosion.
Stainless steel?
Stainless steel was invented in 1913. If this hammer was dropped by a miner in the 1800s, it should be a rusted lump of orange flake. It's not. It looks brand new.
That is interesting. Metallurgy doesn't lie. If it's iron, it rusts. If it doesn't rust, it's an alloy. Did anyone actually test it? Or are we relying on the eyeball test of some guy in a museum?
They tested it, and the results were baffling. But before we get to the chemistry, look at the shape. The hammerhead isn't like a modern claw hammer. It's rectangular, beveled edges. It looks almost ceremonial or specialized. It doesn't match the standard tool catalogs of the 19th century.
That doesn't mean it's ancient. Blacksmiths made custom tools all the time. It looks weird isn't proof of time travel.
No, but finding it inside a rock that predates the existence of trees is proof that something is wrong with our model of reality.
Unless the rock isn't part of the formation. That's the key, Vector. Was the rock attached to the bedrock, or was it a loose rock sitting on a ledge?
It was loose.
Aha, there it is.
Don't aha yet. Just because it was loose doesn't mean it wasn't old. It means it had eroded out of the cliff face. It fell from the strata above.
Or it means it was a concretion formed around a dropped tool that rolled down the hill. This is the Coso artifact, all over again. The spark plug found in a geode. Turns out it was just a 1920s champion spark plug encased in hard clay. It looked like a geode, but it wasn't. Nature is really good at wrapping things in rock.
Nature wraps things. Nature doesn't turn wood into coal in 50 years. And nature doesn't create chlorine-alloyed iron.
Chlorine-alloyed iron?
That's the chemical signature. We'll get to that. But let's stick to the visual for a second. Imagine you are Max Hahn. You break this rock. You see a tool that looks like something your grandfather might have used, but it's embedded in stone that looks like it belongs in a museum of natural history. Do you throw it away?
No, I keep it, and I probably call the newspapers.
He didn't call the newspapers immediately. He kept it. It was eventually bought by Carl Baugh, a creationist researcher. And that's why mainstream science ignores it, because it ended up in a creation evidence museum.
Well, that explains a lot. If the owner has an agenda, specifically proving that humans and dinosaurs lived together, scientists are going to be skeptical. They assume the data is being manipulated to fit a religious narrative.
Skepticism is fine, but dismissal is not. Just because a creationist owns it doesn't mean the object is fake. The hammer exists. You can go see it. It's physical. It's heavy. And it defies explanation.
Does it? Or does it just defy a cursory glance? I want to know about the science. You mentioned tests. You mentioned alloys. Let's get into the lab, because if that metal is truly unrustable ancient iron, then you have my attention.
Oh, I have your attention, Sarah. Because what they found in that metal shouldn't exist on this planet. You asked for science, Sarah. You asked for a lab report. So let's talk about the Batelle Memorial Laboratory in Columbus, Ohio. This isn't a fringe outfit. They do work for the U.S. government, the military, and the aerospace industry. In the 1980s, they took the London hammer and they analyzed it.
Okay, Battelle is legitimate. What did they find?
They ran an X-ray fluorescence analysis on the metal. If this was a 19th century miner's tool, they should have found carbon. Steel is iron plus carbon. Cast iron is iron plus a lot of carbon.
Right. Carbon is what makes iron hard. Without it, iron is too soft to use as a tool. It would bend if you hit a rock.
They found no carbon. None. The hammerhead is composed of 96.6% iron, 2.6% chlorine, and 0.74% sulfur.
Wait, chlorine?
Chlorine.
That doesn't make sense. Chlorine is a gas. It's highly reactive. You don't mix chlorine with iron. It causes rapid oxidation. It eats the metal. If there is 2% chlorine in that hammer, it should have rusted into a pile of dust within months of being forged.
And yet, it hasn't. That is the anomaly. The iron is chemically bonded with chlorine in a way that modern metallurgy cannot duplicate. It has created a protective lattice that makes the object immune to corrosion. It is, for all intents and purposes, stainless iron.
Stainless iron isn't a thing. We have stainless steel, which uses chromium, but you're saying there's no chromium.
No chromium, just iron, chlorine, and sulfur. And here is the other thing the X-rays revealed: the density. When we cast iron today, or even in the 1800s, there are impurities, bubbles, air pockets, slag inclusions. The metal is porous on a microscopic level.
Because you can't get all the air out of the mold. It's impossible.
The London hammer has no bubbles. It has no slag. The quality of the iron is purer than anything we can manufacture without vacuum techniques. It suggests a level of refinement that didn't exist in the 19th century, and honestly, barely exists now.
Okay, the no bubbles thing is weird. I'll give you that. And the chlorine is baffling. But let's play devil's advocate. Maybe it's not a tool. Maybe it's a meteorite. Meteoritic iron is pure. It has weird trace elements. Maybe a meteor fell, looked like a hammer, and someone stuck a stick in it? No, that sounds stupid even as I say it. It's clearly shaped. It has a hole for the handle. It was forged.
It was forged. But by who? If you accept the dating of the rock, 400 million years, you have to accept that someone was smelting high-purity iron when the Earth was covered in slime.
But I don't accept the dating of the rock. That's the weak link. The rock is real, sure. It's Ordovician limestone. But is the hammer inside the rock or just coated in it?
Ah, the coating theory.
It's the most logical explanation. Stalactites form in caves in a few decades. High mineral water drips on an object, leaves a layer of lime, and eventually, the object is encased. If this hammer was dropped in a waterfall or a mineral spring, it could be covered in a thick layer of limestone in less than 100 years. The rock isn't ancient. It's a modern accretion.
Scientists thought of that. They analyzed the solubility of the rock surrounding the hammer. If it was a modern accretion, a stalactite formation, it would be chemically distinct from the bedrock of the creek. It would be lighter, less dense, easier to dissolve.
And?
It wasn't. The rock encasing the hammer is identical to the Ordovician ledge it came from. It's not a coating. It is the rock itself. The hammer was inside the sediment before it hardened into stone.
So we are back to the timeline problem. 400 million years. Vector, do you realize what you're saying? 400 million years ago, there were no trees. There was no wood to make the handle.
Exactly.
So where did the wooden handle come from? If the hammer is from the Ordovician, the handle should be, I don't know, giant fungal stalk? Prototaxits? There was no oak. There was no hickory.
Unless the botanical history is wrong too. Or, unless the hammer isn't from the Ordovician period of this cycle.
Stop with the cycles. You're trying to make the data fit a fantasy.
I'm trying to make the data fit the object. We have a wooden handle that is partially coalified. We have an iron head that doesn't rust. We have rock that is 400 million years old. Standard history cannot explain this object. Standard history says this is impossible. but it's sitting on a table in a museum in Glen Rose, Texas.
A creationist museum. Let's not forget that. The people who own this hammer need it to be an anomaly to disprove evolution. Have they allowed independent secular scientists to cut the hammer in half? To do a carbon-14 test on the wood?
They haven't cut it in half because that would destroy a priceless artifact. But the scratch tests and the X-rays are public record. And regarding carbon-14, you can't carbon date something that is millions of years old. Carbon-14 only works back to about 50,000 years. If there is no C14 left in the wood, it proves it's ancient.
Did they test it for C14?
They claim the wood is too petrified for standard dating. But let's look at the shape again. Look at the photo. The handle isn't just stuck in the head. The metal of the hammerhead appears to have flowed around the wood slightly.
Flowed?
Like the metal was still hot? Or like the pressure was so intense it warped the iron? No. It suggests a different method of assembly. But there's another detail. The rock surrounding the hammer contains fossilized clam shells.
Brachiopods, common in limestone.
One of those clams has been cut in half by the hammer.
Cut in half?
The position of the hammer suggests it fell into the soft mud, crushing and slicing through a shell that was already there before the mud hardened. This confirms the sequence. Shells, mud, hammer falls, mud hardens. 400 million years pass. Max Hahn finds it.
Okay. If, and it is a massive if, the hammer fell into Ordovician mud, that means a human being was walking on the shore of an ancient ocean, carrying a tool, stepping on trilobites.
A human, or something that needed a hammer.
Why a hammer? Think about it. A hammer is a very specific tool. It's for building, for nails, for shaping. If you're an advanced alien visiting Earth, do you bring a claw hammer? No. You bring a laser. You bring a scanner. A hammer is primitive. A hammer is us.
That's what scares me. It's not alien tech. It's human tech. It looks like something bought at a hardware store, which means the person holding it wasn't a god. He was a worker.
A worker in a world that shouldn't exist.
A worker who dropped his tool and ran. Maybe ran from the catastrophe that buried the world in mud. The same catastrophe that turned the forests into coal and the mud into limestone.
You really think there was a civilization that advanced, that completely disappeared, without leaving a single highway, a single plastic bottle, just one hammer?
Not just one. We talked about the gold chain. We talked about the iron pot. There's the Antikythera mechanism, though that's much younger. There's the Coso artifact, the Dorchester pot. The list is long, Sarah. We call them anomalies to make ourselves feel better. But a pile of anomalies is called evidence.
Evidence of what?
Evidence that we have amnesia. Global, species-wide amnesia.
I want to believe you, Vector. It's a cool story, but I'm stuck on the chlorine. How do you get chlorine into iron without it exploding or rusting?
Maybe we should ask the people who built the pyramids, or the people who built Pumapunku. They knew things about stone and metal that we have forgotten. We think we are the masters of chemistry, but maybe we are just the children playing with the chemistry set, left behind by the adults.
And the adults left their hammer in the mud.
And we found it, and instead of studying it, we mock it. We are stuck on the chlorine, Sarah. It's bothering you. It should bother you. Because that 2.6% chlorine content is the key to unlocking the whole mystery.
It's bothering me because it's chemically unstable. You can't just mix chlorine gas into molten iron. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work today, in our atmosphere. But there is a theory, proposed by the researchers who analyzed the hammer, that explains how it was done. It suggests that the environment in which this hammer was forged was radically different from ours.
Different how? Like a different planet?
No, this planet, but a different version of it. The theory is called hyperbaric metallurgy.
Hyperbaric? That means high pressure.
Exactly. Look at the bubbles, or rather, the lack of them. We established that the iron has no air pockets, no porosity. To achieve that kind of density And to force chlorine to bond with iron lattice without oxidation, you would need an atmosphere with significantly higher pressure. You would need to be forging this metal in a world where the air was twice as thick.
Okay, now you are drifting into the vapor canopy theory. The idea that the ancient Earth had a massive layer of water vapor in the upper atmosphere that compressed the air, blocked radiation, and allowed things to grow giant. It's a favorite theory of creationists to explain Noah's flood.
It is, and I know you hate it. But look at the data. We know the Carboniferous era had giant dragonflies. We know there were megafauna. Things were bigger. The atmosphere was different. If the air pressure was higher, then metallurgy would be different. This hammer might be physical proof that the mythic age of high pressure and giants was real.
That is a massive extrapolation from a single tool. You're saying, this hammer has no bubbles, therefore the sky used to be made of water. That is bad science, Vector.
Is it bad science? Or is it forensic science? If I find a fish in the desert, I assume the desert used to be an ocean. If I find a hammer that requires high pressure to manufacture, I assume the world used to be high pressure. The hammer is a barometer from the past. It tells us the conditions of the factory floor.
But if the world was so different, if the atmosphere was thick enough to alter chemistry, then humans couldn't have survived. Our lungs would burst, or we'd get nitrogen narcosis.
Or maybe we were different too. Maybe that's why the myths say men lived for hundreds of years. Maybe the environment protected us, and the hammer is the only thing left of that paradise.
You are romanticizing a non-rusty piece of metal. But let's step back. Let's assume, for the sake of the argument, that the hammer is 400 million years old. Let's assume an advanced human civilization lived in the Ordovician period. What happened to them?
The Great Reset.
You love that term.
It's the only term that fits. If they had the tech to make non-corrosive iron, where are their cities? They should be everywhere. The only way to erase a global civilization that thoroughly is a crustal displacement, a global flood, volcanic winter, something that grinds the surface of the Earth down to the bedrock.
And you think the rock encasing the hammer is the debris from that event?
The hammer was found in limestone. Limestone is sedimentary. It forms at the bottom of the ocean. This suggests that wherever the owner of the hammer was standing, it suddenly became the bottom of the ocean. Instantly.
That aligns with a flood model. I'll grant you that.
It aligns with a catastrophe. The owner drops the hammer. The water rushes in. The mud covers it. The pressure builds. The wood begins to turn to coal. The mud turns to stone. And 400 million years later, Max Hahn picks it up. It's a tragedy, Sarah. This isn't just an artifact. It's a piece of evidence from a crime scene. The murder of a civilization.
So why hide it? Why does the Smithsonian not have this on display? Why is it stuck in a small museum in Texas?
Because of the linear progression model. Modern science is built on the idea that history is a straight line, primitive to advanced, dumb to smart, monkey to man. If you introduce the London hammer, the line breaks. It becomes a circle. It means we were smart. Then we got wiped out. Then we were dumb. And now we are smart again.
And scientists don't like circles.
Institutions don't like circles. Because if history is a circle, it means the crash is coming again. It means we aren't the end of the story. We are just a chapter. And that is terrifying to people who want to believe we are the masters of the universe.
It's also terrifying because it implies we have lost knowledge. If they knew how to make rust-proof iron, what else did they know? Did they have free energy? Did they have medicine we can't imagine?
And did they destroy themselves with it? That's the other possibility. Maybe the catastrophe wasn't natural. Maybe the hammer builder civilization blew themselves up, and the Earth just recycled the mess.
That makes the hammer a warning.
A warning that durability isn't always a good thing. We build things to last. We build nuclear waste containers. We build plastic. We build gold vaults. If we disappear tomorrow, those are the things that will survive. A future explorer will find a plastic bottle and a gold bar and wonder who the gods were.
And they will find a hammer, Because no matter how advanced you get, you always need to hit things.
Exactly. The hammer is the universal tool. It's the alpha and the omega of technology. You use a hammer to build the first house, and you use a hammer to break the last window.
You know, Vector, I usually leave these episodes feeling skeptical, and I still am. I still think there's a 90% chance this is a weird geological fluke or a 19th century anomaly. But that 10%, the chlorine, the petrified wood, it sticks with you.
The 10% is where the truth hides. The 90% is just noise.
So if I go to Texas, can I see it?
You can. It's sitting in a glass case. You can look at the shiny, non-rusted metal. You can look at the ancient rock. And you can ask yourself, am I looking at a hoax? Or am I looking at the tool of a dead ancestor who lived before the dinosaurs?
I think I'd be afraid to touch it. It feels cursed.
History is a curse, Sarah, because it repeats itself, and usually it hits us like a hammer.
On that uplifting note, I'm going to go check my tools. Make sure they're rusting properly.
Rust is proof of the present. Permanence is proof of the past.
This has been Cryptic Vector. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to go read up on chlorine alloys.
And I am Vector. Keep digging. You never know who you're going to find in the rock.
Goodbye.
End transmission.